Hey, is this thing on? Are we recording? Can I get a tech person? Oh, for the love of ed tech.
Hey, Kara. I hear we have something really interesting to talk about today with our guests.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Adam Samuels is joining us to talk about the esports program that his school has launched. And he's bringing 2 students with him.
This is going to be great. I love video games, and I can't wait to hear how they are turning them into a sport.
Yeah,
and a really cool
learning opportunity too. Joining us today is Adam Samuels, Technology Teaching and Learning Support Specialist from Forest Hills School District. Welcome, Adam.
Good morning.
And joining him is actually 2 of his students that are participating in the esports program at Forest Hills. We have Sage with us. Good morning, Sage.
Good morning.
And we have Bennett joining us.
Morning. How are we doing?
Good morning. Good. We're so glad you guys could all join us today because I'm super excited to hear about this. I knew Adam was, had this in the works, but I haven't heard anything about it. So I'm excited to talk to you about the esports program. So Adam, first of all, let's talk about the concept. Like where did you get the idea that this was something that needed to be put in place?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks again for having us. For our program, the way it kind of started out was more informal. So we had one of our science teachers at Anderson High School had an after-school gaming club. And people were just bringing old systems from N64s to Sega, Dreamcast, whatever, and board games, all sorts of things. And we had some students voice with us that they really felt like they wanted to have a competitive team. They liked the casual club feel, and they liked meeting new people, and they liked the common interest. But there were people who, wanted kind of the next step of that in having a competitive team. So working with the students, we said, all right, let's do it. And we had our students join in with us to kind of pitch the idea to a lot of different organizations within and without our district to eventually lead to having a team. So it kind of started organically like that.
Which is great, getting the students involved in the voice and choice. I love it.
Absolutely.
All right. So how did the program kind of come to be, or the competitive piece initiate itself, I guess? Like, what did that rollout look like?
Yeah, so our first step in planning was to reach out to a lot of different organizations. Our Forest Hills Foundation for Education was amazing with promoting our program and supplying us with some technology to get us started. From the competitive side, we looked at a lot of different leagues, and we found a lot of leagues were really expensive. So we came across Esports Ohio, which was kind of a grassroots Ohio-based competitive esports program league. And they are completely free. They now have, I believe, over 200 or 300 plus schools in all of Ohio participating in a wide range of games, and from anywhere from Cleveland to down to Cincinnati, Columbus, you name it. And so we've been in that program since the first year. We're headed on year 3. We found the support is amazing there. And the one thing that really stood out to me with that program was not just the competitive piece, but they make a big push to put players in the driver's seat of their program. Okay. And they make a big push on incorporating curriculum and education into your esports program. So it's not just solely a gaming program. So for us, that means we have students working on different IT skills. We had students build some of our computers to help get us started. Students designing for our live streams that we do for each match. They're designing graphics. They're practicing communication skills over our live stream as they announce the matches. So it's really, Esports Ohio, we felt really incorporated kind of the full package of what we hoped our students would get out of a program.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. And can you explain, like, for somebody who doesn't know, like, the concept of esports, maybe you answer that? And then I actually am kind of curious how Sage and Bennett would explain to somebody what esports is.
Yeah.
So
yes, I define esports as competitive gaming where you're on the computer and you can be playing, you can be in teams of 5 versus 5. You could be in teams of 3 versus 3. It could be any sort of matchup depending on the game. and you're trying to score points for your team in some way, depending on the game. So there's some games that are set up more like maybe tennis, where you have 1v1 matchups happening, but if you win your 1v1 matchup, that counts as a point towards your team's total score. So then from there, you're just playing to win, certain number of games.
Okay. Yeah. Bennett and Sage, how would you guys, if you were going to try and recruit me to your esports team, how would you sell it to me and like what it is?
I'm not sure if Bennett wants to go first or I can. I don't.
It doesn't matter.
I can go ahead.
Okay.
I would describe it pretty much the same way. It's competitive video games. You just kind of take any other sport, and then you can kind of just transfer the same type of, I guess, principles to video games, and it's just kind of like that. Like, you take the rules of a specific game, and then just treat it like a sport.
Mm-hmm.
You put stakes to it. It's not just like a casual thing you do anymore. It's like, you win this, there are rewards, there are things that come after this. You are competing against other people who go and they practice. It's not just, oh yeah, I'm just going to sit on my couch and play some video games for an hour.
Okay. Sage, do you want to?
I mean, I think Bennett kind of said what I was going to say, but I mean, it is literally just like any other physical sport, but you take that and bring it onto a computer or whatever electronic you're using to play that game, and it's just a competitive version of the game. So I mean,
and Sage, you've got a pretty cool opportunity to talk about too that's kind of come your way with esports too. Talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I've been on the esports team this will be my 3rd year and I graduate, but I've been looking at colleges with esports teams, and I have gotten 1 scholarship for video games at the moment.
Wow. Sage is living the dream. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So you're going to be able to take it on and continue playing in college.
Yeah, I mean,
that's cool.
Even if I didn't get a scholarship, I still could have played on the team, but I got one, and it was really exciting. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, and that's a good...
Well, my mind is blown because I didn't even know. Can you tell us, or someone tell us a little bit about what sort of games you're playing? I assume there's a really wide variety.
Yeah, right now we have Overwatch, Smash, and then Rocket League that we just added. Me and Bennett are on the Overwatch team. I'm not sure if Bennett wants to contribute to anything else, saying anything about him.
Yeah, I've been on the Overwatch team for the past 3 years as well. I'm graduating next year. It's just, it's just a good game. Get 6 people in a room, and then, you just go talk to some other people, set up a match, play a little bit, and then you got your other 2 teams. I'm not completely sure how they work. I haven't really been in the rooms. So Overwatch is a team shooter. You get 6 people together. You have all these different characters that you can choose from, and, you kind of choose a setup of characters who work well together to kind of either defend a point, move a payload, or, just kind of capture a point, anything like that. And you do that by kind of synergizing abilities and such together. And it's really just a really good team, I guess, building activity where you just have somebody who takes the lead and they're like, okay, here's our strategy for this match. We're going to do this, this, and this, and we're going to do that by making these decisions. Sage, you want to jump in on what Smash is?
I can try my best. I played Smash 7 years ago, but Smash is is it 1 to 3 people that you can play with Samuels? Is that
yeah, I think 1 to 4.
1 to 4. I feel like you'd be better at explaining Rocket and Smash with the coach. I don't know.
Yeah, and so one thing to add to Bennett's explanation of Overwatch. So like you said, it's a 6v6 game, and your characters are kind of divided. You have 2 characters that are more of attacking kind of characters. You have 2 characters that are more kind of defense. They have shields and things to help kind of cover your team and keep them from getting hit by different projectiles and things. And then you have 2 healers on your team whose goal is really to be aware of which of their teammates have low health and they go heal them. So it's kind of a delicate balancing act. And what's interesting is you not only have to be cautious and aware of what characters your team is playing, but also what characters the other team is playing. And you might have to make adjustments by picking different characters on your team to be able to better accommodate or better counter against the characters that the other team has. So it's like Bennett said, it's a lot of strategy. It's a lot of communication, and it's a lot of really quick decision making. You have to think on your toes. So as far as Super Smash goes, the way the league's set up for us is it's a 1v1. You have 5 players on a team. So you have your top player, your best player, and then your second best, third, fourth, fifth. They take turns playing best 2 out of 3 matchups with the number 1 player on the other team, the number 2, number 3, so forth. And the first team to get 3 total wins wins the match for the day. And in that game, they're kind of just, if you've ever played Super Smash Brothers on Nintendo 64, it's kind of your traditional, you're just kind of punching, kicking, trying to, get the character to fall off the map, or try to get them to have such low health, basically, is how you can kind of think of it, that you wind up winning that way. And then our Rocket League, the other game we have, is soccer with cars, basically, is the way to think about it. So it's 3 versus 3, and you've got 3 players on your team all driving around in cars trying to hit this soccer ball. Your characters can do flips, they can get speed boosts, all sorts of things like that. So again, just like in a soccer game, communicating where you're at on the field, what your next move is going to be, different things to be aware of. And I think a lot of it's like Bennett said, when you take out the E of esports and you're just looking at, well, what does sports offer you? Sports offers you leadership, discipline, competition, working through success and failure. It's a commitment. Our players have to be there twice a week, sometimes 3. There's a lot of work ethic, teamwork that goes into it, performing under pressure, handling criticism, and really building an identity. One of our other coaches, Coach Spitzmuller, talks all the time about how, this is a chance for students to wear their school's colors, and they might not have done that before. And that's big. And it's one more reason for kids to want to walk in the door in the morning and be there at school, especially if school's not their thing. So we think it offers a little bit to everybody in so many different ways.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm curious, from Sage and Bennett, what do you feel like personally that you've gained from being involved in the esports program?
I actually really love this question. I feel like I learned a lot more like communication skills. I'm not someone that likes to be out talking to people, and it gave me like a thing to do after school, to talk to people and make a lot of friends have the same common interest with me. It also helped me with leadership, where like I can talk to someone and help them if they need help with something. So that's like what I've gained fully from this.
Yeah, that's great.
I've gained a lot of like things outside of this as well. Obviously the communication skills, a bunch of new people, I get to talk with stuff after school. But on top of that, I kind of started a mildly successful Twitch career on the side, just because I started streaming for the esports team. And then on top of that, I just got like a really good core group of friends from this that I just talk to all the time.
That's fantastic. Which I'm curious too, from both of you, Sage and Bennett, what drew you to esports? Was it just like the video game concept in general? Like that was something you were already doing by yourselves and you were like, this sounds like a cool opportunity? Or what was kind of the pull for you guys?
So I actually have a very interesting story with this. So about a month before Coach Samuels and Coach Fitz officially announced the esports team, me and a couple of my buddies were planning to start our own.
Cool.
Perfect timing.
And then, we were getting everything ready. We had a presentation ready for the board. And then Coach Samuels and Coach Fitz kind of announced it. And we were like, oh, well, I guess we'll just join this team instead of creating our own. So the idea was always there. He just kind of let me go for it.
That's awesome. Sage, what would you say it was for you?
So I had Coach Spitz as a teacher for like a study hall, and I already played video games, but I was a console player, didn't really play on PC. But he mentioned it to me and I was like, this is something for me to do. I think I'm good at video games and I will join it. And that's kind of what pulled me into joining it, and I was there since the beginning. I loved it and I'm still loving it. So yeah.
That's awesome. Like this is just so cool. I am curious from you, Adam, can you talk just a little bit about your background, like your journey into ed tech really quick, and kind of what prompted you to move in this direction, I guess? Like what had you seen? Was there something that sparked you that you were like, but I want to know your background first. How did you get into technology?
So I started off as a second grade teacher for a couple years, moved into third grade after that. And then from there became a media specialist for 1 year, and then moved into my current role for, I think this is year 4, if I can count it correctly. But really what led me to kind of that whole career pathway, transitioning from the classroom to more of these technology-based roles, was I always felt that technology, when I first started teaching, technology was really just emerging in the classroom in a way that, everybody had a device. Before that, you had 4 or 5 computers in the back of a lab, and that was it. So it really opened up the possibility of how can we use technology in the classroom. And like anything, when that responsibility opened up, or when those options opened up, the next question becomes, well, how do we use technology in the classroom effectively? And I think there's a very delicate, careful balance of how we do that. When you're planning a lesson, your instructional design, I think, needs to, you need to look at what the actual content is that you're teaching, and then think of technology like a tool. So which tool is going to fit best in this learning? And sometimes, I think of it kind of in the realm of like, whether it be Bloom's or all your different levels of thinking that are out there. Am I trying to deepen my students' learning? Am I trying to just help them acquire basic knowledge to be able to then eventually deepen the learning? So those kind of questions really are what led me to this type of role. And I felt like I really wanted to have an impact on a broader scale. So moving out of the classroom was not a move because I didn't like teaching. It was a move because I loved teaching. It was a move because I loved what technology could do if it was done right. And I wanted to bring that passion and that love and appreciation to others too, and work together with other people to do it.
So, all right, can you tell us some of the projects that you've done over the years that led you to start this esports project as well?
Definitely. So I think one of the things that I really value myself on is taking experiences that I've observed in the classroom or that I've done and seeing how can I enhance those in a way that makes more sense, that can lead to deeper or more engaging learning experiences. So for me, when I was a media specialist, we had our grades 4 through 6 go through Stanford D School has a great design thinking activity where students design gifts for each other. And so what we did in our learning commons space as a media specialist was we had students design gifts for each other, and they went through empathy interviews and really tried to get an understanding of, I'm designing a gift for my partner in class. They just paired up randomly. And what does my partner like? Does my partner like their gift to be wrapped? What kind of interests do they have? What kind of gift do I design for them? And this was all with the purpose of just basically taking a step back and thinking as a designer, I need to think about others, not necessarily my needs or my interests or my ideas. It's about them because I'm designing for them. So taking that idea, we had students engage in a lot of different activities, and they called local businesses, started a student-run business from grades 4 through 6, where students called different businesses. They reached out to different businesses to basically try to create some sort of design or enhancement for those businesses. So Kroger, we had a couple students determine the problem that Kroger was that it's boring as a kid to be shopping at Kroger. So their solution was to create an activity sheet that would help engage kids when they're at Kroger with shopping with their parents. So then they realized, well, our activity sheet only meets a certain age group of kids. So let's put a backside on it that also hits another age group of kids. And then their eventual goal was to continue to collect that data through a Google sheet and see, were these sheets actually being used and things like that to determine next steps. We had one group of girls who used 3D printing to design a paintbrush, which was displayed by a mini Bob Ross at a local art store because they wanted like a little paintbrush display that could be put up on their front desk. And so that was a great connection for them. We had one girl do a graphic design activity where she designed 4 different types of designs, and a local business displayed those and sold those. And I think it was 20% of the proceeds went back to our school district. And we had someone who wanted to support the homeless and homeless shelters. So they were creating scarves and different things and created their own website that people could go to buy those items. We helped nonprofits, and the list goes on, but it was great just to have the students reaching out. They were the ones at the forefront, talking to the businesses, sharing their ideas. There were a lot of, phone calls where businesses were like, why are you calling? Like, what's the point of this phone call? Like, why is this kid calling me from 4th grade? But so it's breaking through some of that and kind of figuring out how do we validate this more. But that just shows, this was an activity that I think had a lot of potential in that it wasn't being done often, but the benefits were great. So, and it was a great way for students to have to work through, rejection in the process, not because of necessarily anything they did, but it definitely helped with their communication skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I just think that's so important when you're talking about working through rejection. I know adults that can't handle that. And it's so important when you're out in the real world to be able to take that and move on and be resilient. I just think even just like job hunting, I couldn't tell you how many resumes I've put out and heard nothing. And that can be really hard for some people. But with other people, you're able to say, okay, that wasn't a good fit. What can I do? And move on. That's just such an important skill that people don't think about addressing.
Definitely. And I think it was good. I always say it's like the more we can put students in scenarios where they're trying to solve this ill-defined problems, not straightforward, typical problems. So that happens in esports, that happens in, this community business, student-run business activity. There's no clear pathway for the students. So they have to work together and really find out what's our procedure and process going to look like, how we're going to follow through with it, who's responsible for what. And, we say so much that we want to connect classrooms to the real world. Well, that sounds just like, working at a business or working at whatever job you're at. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, the esports plays into all of those similar skills, like a skill set. So I'm curious, if other districts want to pursue this esport path, what kind of advice would you give to, maybe you could take the admin/teacher perspective, and I'll let Bennett and Sage take the student promotion piece.
Yeah, so I think when you're starting an esports program, it's easy to want to start big, and it's easy to want to have a lot of students and a lot of games, because students play so many different games. But I always say start simple with it. We started with about 17, 18 students. Now we're up to about 40, so we've doubled in about 2 years. And we were very prepared, if we had zero funding, to just use any old computers we get our hands on and run a game like Rocket League, like I was talking about earlier, where it's like soccer with cars, because that game doesn't require a really intense computer to run it. So you can start very, very simple. You can start more affordable, doing something like a game that's on Nintendo Switch, because those are about half the price of a gaming computer. So, and then the last piece I'll just say is being very clear with your intentions and your hopes of kind of your learning outcomes of the program. We've talked to our board, we've talked to our foundation, we've talked to everybody many times to make sure that they're very clear on what we do and why we do it. And it's validated us, because whether you open Instagram, Twitter, you can see our district, our foundation, everybody's sharing what's going on, telling our story. We've had our students on Channel 9, Channel 12 News telling their story. So we just, we talk about it all the time at our meetings at the start of the year with our teams, is you're an ambassador of the team, and we really want you to be the ones to tell the story, because esports is new, and there are certain things that, questions that come with it when you're a community member. And it's our job to not give anybody any reason to think that there's anything negative here, because there's a lot of benefit. So
can I ask, was this a hard sell to your board? Because I just know I love gaming and and like classic video games, especially, and like online and all that. But I do know there's a whole like subset of the population that's like, these kids in these video games, and these are useless and they're rotting their brains. And I'm just, was it a hard sell, or were they really already really receptive to it?
So I love what you brought up too about the whole piece that like, are these video games rotting their brains and all that? Because anytime somebody brings that up, I say exactly. So you just pinpointed the reason why we do this, because you feel like games, not you personally, but somebody who says that feels like games are pointless or, have less of a purpose. So let's take something like that and make it more purposeful, and more beneficial and connected. So, but as far as was it a hard sell to our board, what we did was, and another thing I like about that Esports Ohio League that we're in, is they are very conscious about age ratings on the games, and they only use specific games that fall within specific age ranges. And so that's how we operate too. We looked through Common Sense Media, has a great just search tool you can search any video game you want.
Yes.
And it tells you what kids will rate it as, and it tells you what adults will rate it as. And then it even breaks it down to like, what things are in this game. Is it violence? Is it, profanity? And then it has reviews from students and parents. So I always attach all of those screenshots and just information about the game in actual pictures and screenshots from the game when I send these things to like our board or people who want to understand more. So they really can visually picture what it's about. They can, read and understand what it's about. And then obviously all our videos and different presentations are another way to build that. So
that's great.
That's awesome. Sage and Bennett, how would you sell it to students, or even adults?
You just kind of have to target the right people, to be honest. What Coach Spitz did, he kind of was telling people that he knew who was interested in playing video games. He was talking to people at game club and stuff like that. He told me as well, because me and him would talk a lot about different video games that we played, and I think that's kind of what you should do, because that's how you get people interested in it. And for my parent, was able to convince them that this is something that can help me in my future. And it did take them a while, but they realized that you can do well with this. You can go to college with a scholarship and things like that. Yeah. So, you just got to figure out the right way to tweak it for someone to be interested in it. So that's how I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
I think a lot of it also as well, with esports, a lot of people in it don't really do that much besides esports. Because I know for me personally, like esports came at a time in my life where I wasn't really doing anything outside of school. Like I was just kind of sitting around at home, and then there was this whole esports thing. So my parents were immediately on it, like, "Hey, you're gonna do something after school because you found something you enjoyed." And you really just need to find those people who like there isn't really another fit. This is the fit right here. And to sell that, you really just have to say, hey, what are your hobbies? If your hobbies are gaming, then esports is obviously a fit for you. I'm usually not the type of guy to play games like Overwatch all that much. I like to play a lot slower paced games, but I've really just enjoyed playing Overwatch and just getting to have a change of pace from what I usually do.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm curious, did your school have already like a game club type setup where you're playing like Magic the Gathering or like card-based games and board game, like that kind of? Yeah, non-online.
I mean, for me and Bennett go to 2 different schools in our district. I'm not sure if they mentioned that. But for the school that I go to, we have a gaming club, and it could be all sorts of games. Some people bring in a Switch, or I mean, I play a lot of card games with a whole bunch of people. We really like Monopoly Deal. That is the game that we play.
Great game.
It's a very fun game. Highly recommend it. But yeah, we play it, and that's like what we do. It's not really playing on a screen. It's like an actual card game. That's really fun.
Top 10 games. So at Turpin, I'm not really too sure, but I do know that we do have from what I can tell, pretty big Dungeons and Dragons club. A lot of people join that. I'm a pretty big D&D guy. I haven't really joined the club, but I know that's all going on.
I just was curious too if there were other like kind of gaming focused outlets for students other than esports, just as a starting point, because I'm thinking too, like districts, if they don't even have like a gaming club, could just start there if they don't feel like they have the resource to maybe start off with an esports program, just see what the interest is.
That's a great idea. And we just had right before winter break started, we like from 5 to 9 at night, we had a gaming night, and we try to there's a couple times throughout the season where it's basically a lock-in, and we all order pizza, hang out, play games together. Not necessarily the games that we play in our season, but we play a little bit of everything. But I mean, Bennett and Sage are both there, and you guys probably spend half the time? I think the whole team spent like half the time playing either Monopoly or Uno or different games, and then the other half actually being on the computer.
Sage, do you want the rest of your Uno cards back?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Bennett may or may not have been playing by the rules, but we'll leave that for another day.
Hey, I learned how to cheat and I used it. All right.
But all to say, I think it'd be a great starting point, and the interest is, would still be there. So I think that's a great way to start low budget and get people interested.
I love this. We did not have anything like this where I went to school, I can tell you. Can I ask a little bit about your membership? Like, I'm just imagining this has to be a really interesting, like, cross section of students, because I know in my group, like, I was on the soccer team and I was in the marching band and I did that kind of stuff, but I was the only one in my friend group that was doing any kind of gaming at all. So I would have been hanging out with people I wouldn't have been hanging out with otherwise. And I'm wondering if that's what you're kind of seeing, that you're like drawing students from all different corners of the student population.
Sage or Bennett, do you want to speak to that as far as just some of the interests of people on the team?
I can. I was the first one out of my friend group to join the esports team, and I was able to convince them to join as well when they finally got into high school. So they're also on the esports team with me, and it's very funny because even though we don't fully have, like, they all are doing different things outside of school, but the one thing that we fully all have in common with an after-school activity is playing video games together. And I mean, kind of pulled them from different parts of, like, the school activity place.
I could definitely speak to that. So when I first joined, I joined with one of my friends. He's left the team, but from that, I've met all these new people, and it's gotten to the point where I've introduced them to people from outside of esports and kind of merged it all into one big group.
That's great.
And to the point where some of them are even better friends than I am. So
I love that.
That's awesome.
We've got people from, that participate in academic quiz team, theater, varsity soccer players. We've got pretty much every possible area of extracurricular that you could think of in our school, we have those students that are also participating in esports. So it's really interesting just to see so many different groups come together. And, we talk about things like inclusion and all that. And I think this really is a program. What also makes it special is us and our band in our school district are the only two programs that are really combined, where we take our school district is Anderson High School and Turpin High School as our two high schools. So those are typically separate, sports teams. But our band is combined into Forest Hills Band. Our esports team is combined into Forest Hills Esports. So it's really one of the only opportunities that we have that students from both schools are participating on the same team. And like Bennett said, that just leads to so many different groups of friends being formed out of that. So it's really cool.
That's fantastic. And I'm curious too, because it's a team, what does a season look like? Like, do you have a season?
Yeah, we do. So Esports Ohio, you have the fall season and the spring season. I'm not sure if we have a winter season, but so for Forest Hills Esports specifically, we play in the spring season where we have about 8 weeks, and every week we have one match. So you kind of make your way up through your division, which is just filled with a bunch of other schools who are, either around your skill set, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, somewhere around there. And then after the end of those 8 weeks, depending on how many games you won, you could go to semifinals and then even finals. So it really just depends on how many teams you have per game, but it all ends up in a season, yeah.
Yeah, what's exciting is also at the end of the season, if your team makes it to the finals, the students get to travel up to University of Akron, and they have a multi-million-dollar esports facility there. So they can compete there. Last year with COVID, our Smash team won the whole entire thing last year. They didn't drop like a single match basically the whole season. They were unbelievable. We didn't get to travel last season, but it was a very exciting time for them. So it's cool the season's laid out. They've now added like a regional tournament too, where you start by doing regionals and then you can qualify. So it's just kind of like a typical sports season.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Are you meeting throughout the year, though, to practice?
Yeah, so we started around late September, early October, even though our season doesn't start till March. Right. There is a fall season, like Bennett said, that's going on, but we typically skip the fall season and just do spring. So this will give kids time now. We've done our tryouts and everything, and this gives kids time just to learn each other's play styles and who's going to play what characters, things like that, and just get to know each other better. So we kind of like that format because it just allows for more bonding time. And we typically practice once a week, have a match once a week, and then we have an optional day on Friday where we call it Open Studio, where students can come in and just game and hang out with each other. So
that's so cool.
I think that's so important. You were talking about learning each other's playing styles. It's really, like you said, it's just like a physical sport. It's just like basketball. You have to have that team chemistry to perform well. People don't think about that.
No, they don't. And when you look at like college esports schedules, their schedules are set up really interesting. Like one of their days could be like a meditation as a team. The next day can be, running a couple miles. It can be very, they preach mind and body, and that you can't be sitting in front of a computer and make good decisions if your mind isn't fresh, if you're not, doing what you need to take care of yourself. So that's something I want to bring in the future to our team, because I think it's very valuable. And I think it just further validates the benefits that esports can have.
That's cool. I know. I really want to come to a practice now.
Yeah, no kidding.
We're waiting.
I know. I want to come see this in motion, because this just sounds so cool.
It's awesome. I mean, Bennett and Sage can speak to it, but the energy is just during the actual match days. It's intense. There's just a lot of communication, a lot of quick decisions, and it's just fun to watch everybody work together. So
yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I just think it's cool.
It is really cool.
All right. So what's your best tip or trick for a school that wants to get into this but doesn't currently have a system or anything set up?
I think my biggest tip would be just to reach out to people who are getting into this, because since esports is so new, everyone's kind of throwing darts, and seeing what hits and what works. And for us, a lot of it was researching about it. But I know we've had a lot of teams reach out to me or our coaches or players personally and say, hey, we're looking at starting a team. What equipment do we need? How do we do this? Where did you start? And I think that helps the best, because then you're just catalyst to really get your program running a little bit quicker and not making any of the potential, not mistakes, but just potential, missteps when you're first starting a program.
That's great. That's great. Well, I want to say thank you so much. This conversation has been fantastic, and I'm so glad that Bennett and Sage were also able to join us. It's great to get a student perspective.
You're our first students on the podcast.
Yes.
So
that's awesome.
it's a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also feel very honored. Thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our discussion today. If you like our podcast, please don't forget to subscribe to get notified when new episodes are released.
For more information about our podcast and to access links and resources referenced in this episode, check us out at fortheloveofedtech.org.